Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cozy Talks Live. It is Wednesday night. It is rainy out there right now in Central Florida. We're getting the summer rains right now. All right, for those of you watching the replay, hit replay in the comments section. Give me a shout out. If you have a question you want me to answer, go ahead and pop it into the questions section in the comments section. I do go back and watch the show and read the comments after I've closed the show down to get any of those comments and questions that you might have. All right, I'm going to wait about a minute or two to let you guys jump on board and also to get Instagram going because, Instagram's got to take its sweet old time. All right, here we go. And officially live on Instagram as well. Woohoo, it's a party. Okay, back to this part. All right, guys, I see a couple of you jumping on board. As you come on board, you know the routine. Let me know who you are, where you're from, and what is in your mug this evening. Hopefully it's a cool drink. I just got water because it's Florida and we need water right now. All right, let me switch over. Hang on, I just realized I don't have my chat box open. Let's see who's on board. We got Emily coming in from Central PA. We got Rob coming in from Mooresville, Indiana with his Diet Mountain Dew. That stuff is strong stuff. All right, let's see what's going on over on Instagram. We got Zolo joining in from Instagram. Welcome. All right, guys, I am streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, all under Cozy Talks. Make it easy to find me this evening. Hey, Tom. Tom, I can't thank you enough for the treats. We have been enjoying them so much, and I'm thanking you in advance for sending me parts so that I can take them to Guatemala for my trip next week. I'm so excited about that. I'll be talking a little bit about that this evening. Tom, again, thank you so much. Very, very much appreciated. All right, I see some of you jumping on board. It's a bit of a slower evening. I'm going to give you guys another few seconds to get over here, and we're going to go ahead and start answering questions. So I didn't have as many questions come in this week. I know people are on vacation and they're enjoying their summer. So feel free, guys, to throw your questions into the comments section for me this evening. I've got the one question I'm pulling up here that came in from Raymond. Hey there, Beth. Beth just had her ampuversary, so congratulations on celebrating life, Beth. I know you've been through the gauntlet and you have come out victorious. We've got Pastor David on board with his lemonade, and Beth is camping with the beautiful view of the mighty Columbia River. You take some of the coolest trips, Beth. We got Earl coming in from California. Thank you for joining in, Earl. All right, let's see. Things are a little bit slow. Okay, and we're going to get going. Sorry. I'm like switching back and forth between screens here, guys, between the main screen and then the Instagram screen. And all right, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So for those of you who are joining me for the first time this evening, welcome. My name is Cozy Belloso. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. I've been a PT for a little over 23 years, and my passion is working with the amputee and limb loss community. Hey there, Brian, what's going on? Good evening, Johnny. And we got to say a happy belated birthday to Johnny V, who from Poughkeepsie, New York, in the Cozy Talks house, having his iced tea at Panera Bread. Good to see you, man. Van Gregory, there's my boy, Van Gregory, still in Florida. You know what my dream team would be? Would be to have Van Gregory, Tom, and I do a race together. And this time, Van Gregory, I will finish the race with you. I couldn't finish it last time. We did a Empower Fest, Hangers Empower Fest a few weeks back. I was not able to finish the 5K. There was somebody on the race course that needed a little bit of medical assistance, so I had to kind of pull over to the side and help that person. But Van Gregory, you killed it. I would love to put you together with Tom and then do a race with both of you. That would be just kind of awesome. All right, guys. Speaking of races, this particular individual, Raymond, had a question about running. Raymond asks, I'm after some advice about liners and sleeves. I run a lot. I don't have any issues on track, road, or manicured trails. But as soon as I run on the gnarly, rugged, rocky trails, especially descending, my liner fails to work and the sleeve becomes loose, thus resulting in my stump suffering from blisters and swelling, especially behind my knee. It would be a massive help if someone could help or point me in the right direction. I don't want to be known as the trail runner with a disability, but the runner with some ability. Okay, so guys, this is a little bit trickier for me because I don't do trail running. I just do flat course running because that's where I live in Florida. It's all flat course. So I would love to hear from some of my folks out there who do have experience with trail running. What are your hacks for this? So I can go back to the basics with Raymond. Raymond, a lot of it also starts with skincare. Making sure that you are keeping your skin healthy while you're wearing your leg, but especially when you're running, you're putting 8 to 10 times your body weight into your joints. And that also includes your skin when you are running, right? So all those friction, all those shearing forces are, taking effect. So one thing I would ask you to do is just see, like, what is your sweat situation like? A lot of my runners, again, we live in an extremely humid state here in Florida. We're talking, some people can't even go outside in the daytime outside of the air conditioning because it's just the humidity is just so heavy. So, Raymond, I would ask, when you are running, is the sweat accumulating inside your liner? A lot of my runners during their runs, they have to stop, take off their liner, pour out the sweat, and we're talking like copious amounts. Wipe everything down, dry the limb, and put it back on. And again, some of my runners who are super experienced, they can get this done in under a minute. Like, they'll take it off, pour the sweat out, dry off with a quick little hand towel they have attached to their waistband, put everything back on, and keep going, right? And that definitely extends the life of your run, right? So I wonder, in your case, Raymond, if you're sweating more because you're working harder going down those trails, if it's going to start to create more sweat, and it's gonna loosen your liner basically, and it's not going to be able to get that good suspension liner on there. When it comes to the blisters and everything like that, and again, this is, I treat every one of my runners individually and just see what works for them. I know Tegaderm. I love Tegaderm. It's like a really thin dressing. It almost looks like saran wrap, but it's not saran wrap. Okay. And some of my runners will sometimes put it on really sensitive areas on their residual limb. I'm thinking of one of my runners in particular. He's got a lot of skin grafting on his residual limb. And when he first started running with me and we were teaching him how to run, he did open up a little bit of blister, and it was always in the same spot. So along with working with this prosthetist, we put some Tegaderm on there, and it was enough to protect his residual limb. Right. So, Raymond, that might be one thing you might want to think about. It's called Tegaderm. The other thing you want to think about is a liner specifically for running. And it's not that they make specialty liners for running. I haven't heard of one yet, but you might want to have a liner that's just for running, meaning it's going to be nice and tight. So if you're using a liner that is for walking, and maybe that you use for your everyday walking, and maybe it's just a little bit loose, it may not necessarily affect you when you're walking, but when you're running and on uneven terrain, that might be where you start to feel it, right? So I guess making sure that your liner is really snug and really fitting well on you. So these are just like little things here and there that hopefully when you put it together might help just a little bit like that. And then the other thing is finding yourself a prosthetist that specializes in running blade alignment. Not all prosthetists know how to build a running prosthesis. Even for myself as a physical therapist, I've got over 23 years experience working with amputees. And when it comes to running alignment, running mechanics, it's something I am still learning about myself, right? But you can find a prosthetist that works with runners. Just off the top of my head, Amputee Blade Runners is a fantastic organization. And they probably have a lot of advice that they can offer you there. All right, let's read. Let's read what you guys are saying right now. All right, we got Emily saying, have you heard about the new technology in the works that would allow a prosthesis to be controlled neurologically? Thoughts? I sent you a link on the article I saw. Haven't seen the article yet, Emily, and I don't see any emails. Emily, can you resend that to me? It's basically like mind control prosthesis. So we've been actually seeing this in our upper extremity devices now for quite some time. And it's kind of tied into the process also with targeted muscle reinnervation. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second. So a couple of years back, I worked with the one of the companies that produces the equipment used to do targeted muscle reinnervation surgery. And what that does, originally that surgery was designed to kind of rewire the upper extremity. Here's what I mean by that. In your upper extremity, in your arm, specifically underneath in your armpit, you've got a lot of nerves. It's called the brachial plexus. It's actually quite beautiful if you've ever seen a dissection of it. It's just this intricate weaving of nerves right here. And they feed out from your cervical spine, and it goes and it comes out here, and then it innervates the entire arm and the hand, right? So it's a pretty intricate system. So when you have someone with a very high level upper extremity amputation, right, a lot of those nerves are severed and there's not a lot to work with, right? The nerves basically become useless. So Dr. Greg Dumanian and another doctor, I always forget his name and I do apologize for that. Dr. Greg Dumanian, about 30 years ago, I want to say, 30 years ago? I think it was 30 years ago. Okay, he developed this procedure called targeted muscle reinnervation. So he took those nerves that were part of that brachial plexus and he basically replugged them into the pectoralis muscle. Why the pec muscle? It's big. And as a muscle, when you have someone with a very high amputation, it really wasn't doing any good because there was no arm left. So they were able to re-plug those nerves in. And then with the certain prosthetic devices, they were able to use the electrical impulses from those nerves to mind control the prosthesis. Right. So I know it's kind of like a long-winded explanation, but that's kind of where that technology has been coming from. Usually when it comes to technology on prosthetic devices, upper extremity gets the best of it, right? Because I mean, it makes sense, guys, right? With our fine motor skills, there's a lot more that needs to happen than with our legs. Right. So the technology, sometimes it takes a couple of decades for that to trickle down into the lower extremity. I've heard some whispers about this technology making an appearance in lower extremity prosthetics, but I think we're a little ways off from that. And like I said, I've heard whispers, so I can't really comment too much on that, but I'd be very curious to read that article and see what it has to say. We've got Audrey coming in from Maine. Van Gregory, thank you. Yeah. Let's see. And she's drinking yummy peach iced tea with frozen raspberries. You're fancy, Audrey. I like how you drink there, girl. All right. We got Donna, who's a bilateral AK from Australia. So I probably should be saying good morning to you, right? You're pretty far ahead of us at this point, Donna. Well, I'm glad you were joining us. Please don't be shy. If there's any questions I can answer for you, I'd be very happy to do so. Beth says the same with recumbent biking, hot and a 1x2 inch blister. Ooh. On the back of the knee. That's a big one. First time ever, been biking for 3 years with no issues and think it might be a shrinkage due to sweating. Absolutely. And again, it's a way of life for us here in Florida all year round, guys. Like the humidity here really, truly is all year round, and it's just kicked up a notch. So people lose a lot of volume here with the amount of sweating that we do. So yeah, Beth, you're right on the nose there. You sweat a lot, that residual limb is going to shrink down, which means there's going to be a lot more movement going on, a lot more friction and shearing, and potential for a blister forming. Denise is saying hello from hot North Carolina. Girl, I think we got you beat. I don't know. North Carolina can get pretty hot, but the humidity here. Hey there, Andrea. There is my occupational therapist. Thank you for being on board. We got Sherry. Oh yes, Sherry, about the squat. So I know I like put my little teaser up this evening on, can an above the knee amputee do squats? The answer is yes. Hopefully you guys saw the beautiful video of my beautiful patient. I absolutely love working with Carlene. She's just a joy to work with. But if you haven't seen that video, I've got it posted on my Instagram account, and I also have it on my Facebook account, basically showing how an above the knee can do squats. It's something that understandably, you know what, let me switch over to Instagram and see. Ooh, we got a couple people there on Instagram. Thanks for joining in. So a lot of folks will be like, well, I can't move my prosthesis. I can't do squats as an amputee. Yes, you can. Okay. And it all starts off by just understanding what is a squat. A squat, it's basically the act of sitting down and standing back up again. If you're doing proper form with your squat, you're essentially standing up and sitting down. Okay. And you'll see it. It's way better illustrated in the video that I posted. Okay. If you're doing proper form, you're not allowing your knees to go over your toes, right? You're keeping your knees back and you're sticking your bottom out, similar as to when you're sitting in a chair. So think about it. When you're sitting in a chair, you're going to stick your bottom out and sit down, right? That's a squat. So usually when I have an above the knee amputee who's nervous about trying to do a squat, I'll put a chair behind them and I'll tell them, okay, sit down, stand up. That's how you do it. Now, Everybody's knee works a little bit differently, so you might have to make adjustments here and there. In Carlene's case, we didn't have to adjust anything on her knee, and she didn't have to do anything funky. Sometimes people have to unload the knee and unweight it to get it to bend. Sometimes people have to put a little more pressure on the toes. Sometimes we have to put a little wedge under the heel to help that knee bend a little bit more. It's a little bit different for each knee, but the point is, with trial and error, you can figure out how to do a squat. Now, once you've gotten the basic mechanics of how to get yourself to smoothly sit down and stand up in a squat, do the squat movement, the next key is to kind of put the polish on it. Right. So with Carlene, you can see that she's sitting in a chair in front of the parallel bars, and she's holding onto the parallel bars just for support as she's learning the movement. Right. So as she was learning the movement and figuring out how to get her prosthetic knee to engage and how to flex again, the second part was, okay, now how do you start putting more weight onto that prosthetic side? Okay, let's even out the weight. So she may have started out with 70% of her weight on her anatomical leg, 30% of her weight on her prosthesis. And then as she got better, those percentages started to even out a little bit more. Okay. And towards the end, she was almost 50-50 with both legs doing that squat. Okay. Couple of key points to remember about a squat. It ain't going to do you no good if you're not doing good form. So make sure the form is good. Second thing is, y'all need to learn how to activate those glutes, right? With above the knee amputees, right? You will have some of your quads and your hamstrings, okay? But they're not going to be as strong, right? Because they've been cut. Even if you have a long limb, right? The quads and the hamstrings are not going to be the one that is doing the majority of the work during that squat. You want those glutes working, okay? So what I tell people is, when you're standing up, you got to squeeze your bum together and get those glutes to activate. You have to consciously think about it, okay? Because the brain's not going to want to do it unless you tell to do it, right? When people do a squat, it should take a good 5 to 7 seconds. Like, it's not just up, down, up, down, up, down. It should be a slow standing up, squeezing the glutes, and a slow lowering down, okay? Working on those slow twitch muscle fibers. And if you guys want to listen to one of my lectures on muscle strengthening and how the muscle really works, go to my YouTube channel. Totally use this plug right there. Okay. Then afterwards, if you look at the video with Carlene on it, I have her do about 10 slow ones. And then at the end, I have her do pulsing. So I'll have her do 10 quick ones. Okay. And the reason for that is to really get those fast twitch muscle fibers to start activating as well. All right. So you're going to feel the burn, and it's a wonderful, wonderful exercise. Excuse me. All right. See, we got Jerry Ann coming in from Arizona, coffee with vanilla white chocolate. Here's a question for you guys. Let me know yes or no. Do you want me to show you the video from the Strong Body program of the above the knee squat? Let me know in the comment section. Then I can try to find it and put it there. Hey there, Ray. Oh my gosh, Ray, my fellow physical therapist right there. I have not seen you in ages, man. How are you doing? We got Sean coming in, having a Coke and a smile. I love it. Emily asked, I was just curious how it might work for someone with a neural tube defect like spina bifida. Emily, it would be the same. The mechanics are the same. What might be different for someone like yourself, if you have spina bifida and you have compromised muscle strength, neurologically compromised muscle strength, is the depth of the squat. Okay, and this little hack goes back to my days of working home health, and I would have my population, a lot of geriatric population that are a little bit weaker and a lot more deconditioned. So what I would do is, if my patient was having a hard time standing up from their couch, again, a squat, I would get their pillows and I would pile pillows, right? So here's what I would do. Sorry, Bob, you're getting kicked off. It's a really fancy hack, let me tell you. Okay. I would literally have them sit on several pillows. As you can see, I'm sitting a lot further up. So when it's time for me to stand up, I don't have as far to go, right? So that's how you can start your squat if you have neurological impairment. You want to be safe that you're not going to fall forward the way I'm doing right now, because this is a very shallow couch, right? So you want to make sure you're being safe doing this. But if you stack up the pillows and just get to the height where you can stand up and sit down in a controlled manner, that's where you start your squat. And then as you get stronger, you remove a pillow at a time. Okay. Guys, a lot of times when you hear me doing exercises or talking about exercises on the show, and those of you who are a part of my Strong Body exercise program, these are not fancy, complicated exercises. Okay. These treatment strategies have been around since the 1940s, 50s, when physical therapy started developing as a profession, right? These are the exercises that my mentors, who have long since retired, were using. And the reason is because they work. The fancy exercises are fun and all these crazy things that you see people doing on social media and things like that, those are fun. And then there's a place for them. But, for lifelong fitness, you need to know which muscle groups to strengthen and what to focus on, how to strengthen them, to have an understanding of how muscle strengthening really works, and then understanding the basics of a mechanics of an exercise and how to modify it. Right? So the squat exercise, the bridge exercise, and probably deadlifts. Those are my 3 top favorite lower extremity exercises. And I can think of several ways of modifying those exercises to accommodate someone who is just out of their surgery through someone who is the high-end athlete. Okay? I myself am a runner, right? And these are the exercises I use for running. Okay. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be with fancy equipment. It can be very simple and it can be very effective. Okay. When you're doing it right. Okay. Here, let me see what's going on here. Hey there, Eric. Let's see. We got Harsh on board. Oh, wonderful. Oh, thank you, Sean. I appreciate you sharing that video, guys. And again, I'm a small mom and pop organization. So whenever you guys share out my videos on social media, really helps me out. And I appreciate that. Eric says, I do squats and I need to adjust my knee. Hey there, Ed. Glad you could join in. Hey, Tatiana's on board. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Am I not showing up on YouTube? Okay, I see a couple of other people watching me on YouTube. And guys, that's why I stream to several different places, because sometimes some of them don't work and some of them do. Oh, what about squatting as a below the knee amputee? Sean, if an above the knee amputee can do it, a below the knee amputee can do it, right? You've got the advantage of having a biological knee. But 1 or 2 things you do have to keep in mind is your mechanics, for sure. So you don't want to stress out your knee. If you're a below the knee amputee doing a squat, again, watch your form, okay? And it depends on the nature of your prosthetic device. If you have a really high anterior wall, meaning you've got a part of your kneecap that's being covered from your prosthesis, your socket, you might run into some problems when you're doing a deeper squat. Or if the back of your prosthesis is cut really high, again, bending down and doing that squat might pose a problem. So that might be time to talk to your prosthetist to see if they can give you a little wiggle room and just bring that trim line down just a little bit, just to get you so you can use the knee more and put more range of motion and do a deeper squat. Let's see. Casey says, I want to say I'm now board eligible to be with ABC and will be sitting for my exam in October. Congratulations, Casey. That is a feather in your cap. That's wonderful. Many congratulations. Phil says, good evening. For squats, I have staggered my feet a bit as my knees don't quite line up. Yeah. And guys, everyone's a little bit different with how they do the squat for above the knee amputee. And it's more of just, it's not if you can do it, it's just figuring out how you can do it, right? Again, this is where your neighborhood friendly physical therapist can really be a wonderful help there. Hey there, Mervyn. Glad you could join in. Okay, let's see, guys. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, I'll share my screen and I'll show the whole like above the knee doing the squat. Hang on, guys. Sorry. Share screen. Share screen. There's my share screen. All right, here we go. This. Share. We are going to go, let's see, bear with me, guys. We got a lot of exercises here. I think think it's in the phase 2, I believe. Yep. Oh, here we go. We're going to do the squat with pulses. That's the one I want.
So if you've been practicing the squats and you need a little bit of an extra challenge, here's how you're going to do it. It's called the pulsed squat. Same starting position for the squat. He's got his knee turned off there and he's ready to go. All right, so we're going to go into the squat. And once you're in that squat position, you're going to pulse slowly up and down. Try it 3 times and then come back up into the standing position. This is going to make those quads and these thigh muscles start to sing. Don't forget to activate your glutes. When you're in the squat position, squeeze those glutes together, and also when you're coming back up again. Give it a try.
Okay. Sorry, I'm still getting used to like doing the whole like share screen with the microphone and everything on there. Let me put my microphone back on. Okay, so that's under who have the Strong Body program. It's under legs phase 3. Same thing for my below the knee amputees. And if you have my book, same thing, phase 3, and it happens to be on page 57 right there. Now you could hear in the video me saying that Jonathan, my patient model there, had to unlock his knee. So in his case, he had a C4, I think, the Autobox C4, and he decided to put it into free swing mode, and that was just easier for him. He also has a much longer limb, so he could get away with putting it in free swing just for that exercise, and then activate it again when he would start walking. So again, everyone's a little bit different on how it can work. Excuse me. All right, let's see what we got going on. Thank you, Beth. And guys, those of you who are curious, I'm fancy now. I have QR codes. Give me a second. Give me a second. Here we go. Ta-da! Okay, there's the QR code. It's right there. There's my QR code, guys. If you're interested in the program, it's 150 exercises for above the knee and below the knee amputees. It's for arms, legs, core, strengthening, balance, and flexibility. It's phases 1, 2, and 3. So somebody who's right out of their surgery through the athlete. And then I also have the books that go with it. I have an above the knee book and I have a below the knee book. So all the exercises that are in the videos are also in the book. Lots of description, lots of good pictures there. Okay, there's my shameless plugging for this evening. Let's see what else you guys are saying here. Kevin is saying, if your bum isn't already squeezed together by life, check your pulse. Nope, not going to act in a professional manner. Laughter is good for my soul. I know, it's always fun. It's kind of funny when I'm working with patients and I just have to tell them, you got to squeeze your glutes. And they're just kind of looking at me and I'm like, squeeze your butt together. That's how you got to activate those glutes. And let me just do a side note on that. Okay, again, I talk a lot about muscle strengthening and physiology, right? How does the muscle get stronger and how does it really work? Okay, so when the muscle is working, right, it's also your brain is recruiting motor units, right? It's sending the message to your muscle saying, okay, let's get all those different motor units in that muscle to start firing. Well, the brain and the body is kind of lazy. So it's only going to do the absolute minimum. It's only going to recruit the minimum amount of fibers needed to do the movement, right? So that's the concept behind strengthening, is that you want to overload the muscle to get the brain to recruit more fibers, okay? And you can do that by loading more weight on, by doing increased repetition and, fatiguing the muscle. And then also by working the 2 different types of muscle fibers, the slow twitch and the fast twitch muscle fibers. Okay. So when I'm prescribing exercises to my patients, I'm keeping all of this in mind and I'm teaching them this as well. Okay. So in actively squeezing your glutes together, you're activating it and you're telling your brain to start recruiting more muscle fibers. Okay. And it can work pretty quickly. Like it takes 6 to 8 weeks to see a change in the muscle fiber under a microscope. But I can see patients that are recruiting more amounts of muscle fibers just in the course of one treatment. I hope that makes sense, right? So the actual size of each muscle fiber It'll take time and weeks of strengthening to see those changes, right? But muscle recruitment, how many muscle fibers are being recruited, you can start to see that in a matter of a session, a treatment session. Okay. All right. Totally nerding out here, guys. Yeah, I'm a total nerd. So there, Eric says, yep, C4 is what I use in free swing. Kenny's on Virginia Beach with happy 4th Eve to everyone. Yes, guys, happy 4th Eve. Yeah, and guys, you can, I mean, again, this is one of those exercises, what Van Gregory said, hold on to share a countertop when squatting. You know, obviously in the video, Jonathan is an experienced, athlete, so he could do it without having to hold on to something, but no shame in that. Stand in front of a kitchen counter, play around with your knee, figure out what works and what doesn't work, have that chair behind you in case your knee buckles so you don't go crashing to the floor, and try to figure out the mechanics. And then once you figure out the mechanics of bending and standing, the next thing is to focus on trying to even out the weight in both feet. Clear as mud? Awesome. All right. I actually had one thing that happened in treatment this week, which I thought was interesting. It's something that happens pretty much with all of my patients at some point or another when I'm working with them. And it's something that I don't know if people are aware of it, if this is something that they talk about a lot or not. But it's basically, you know, when is it that you adjust and make adjustments to your prosthesis? You know, when do you change the alignment? When do you know it's time to go into your prosthetist and say, hey, this isn't working out for me? You know, what's going on? And it happened, it happened just this week with one of my patients. And just a very, very nice lady. I've been working with her for a couple of sessions now. And it, you know, as a therapist, it takes me a couple of sessions to kind of get to know my patient, to get to know their body, how their body works, to get to know how their prosthesis works, how it's aligned, and just kind of really suss out all the details. And this particular individual, she's a hard worker. She's had her prosthesis for quite some time, over a year now, and she can walk around fairly well, but, we're working on trying to get her off the cane, right? And we were noticing, in the last session that the knee was just a little too loosey-goosey, right? That it would just kind of, she had to work very hard to prevent that knee from buckling. So after working with her for the entire session, we said, okay, now it's time to call in the prosthetist and let him make an adjustment. Let's increase the friction on this knee. And then that's it, right? And this particular, I was working with, the particular clinic is called West Coast Brace and Limb. They're a very large clinic here in Tampa. And I really enjoy working with that clinic and with their prosthetist because they like to work together. And I like that, right? So the prosthetist made the adjustment, made the knee friction a little bit higher. And then we were just like, let's leave it there, right? So I sent the patient home and she worked for about a week or two doing the exercises. And when she came back and I said, how's it going? She goes, it feels good. Okay, great. In this particular last treatment session, there were issues with the pistoning in the socket. Like we were hearing air, we were hearing some stuff. We worked the entire session. We did a bunch of conservative methods, trying to re-don, put the socket back on, take the socket off, try a different fit, try to rotate it a little bit, try a bunch of different things. And then I had her doing a lot of the exercises. And I guess my point, my very long-winded point, and I apologize for that, is we were not able to smooth out the problem. Okay. And I could tell that my patient was getting frustrated, right? Because she's like, I feel like I'm doing everything right, but I'm not getting the gait mechanic exercise that you're trying to teach me. Like it's just not clicking, right? And I had to just stop her and say, okay, the problem here is not you. Yes, she needs to do some strengthening. She needs to do some gait mechanics. But at this particular moment in time, okay, we had done everything we could do from the patient standpoint. And it was kind of narrowing the field and realizing, what the problem really is coming from this part of the prosthesis in the socket. And in her case is that her trim lines are really, really high in the groin area. And it was preventing her from getting all the way down into the socket. Okay. She's had some changes with her limb since the last time she saw her prosthetist. So things are starting to change, right? So instead of letting her leave the clinic frustrated, I had a really good come to Jesus talk with her. And I said, look, now is the time. Now we know what's going on with you. Now we know this is the part that's coming from strengthening that we need to work on. This is the part that's coming from balance and coordination we need to work on. But this part is coming from the socket. And we know specifically where in the socket. So now's a great time to make that appointment with your prosthetist before you come see me again so they can address that particular issue. Okay. And to me, guys, this is where the communication is really, really important. And it takes time. And for those of you who are clinicians out there, especially those of you who are new to treating amputees, it can be frustrating as a clinician because you're sitting there knocking your head against the wall saying, I know I'm teaching the gait mechanics correctly. Why isn't my patient getting this? Right. And then you got to take a step back and go, okay, let's look to see if it's coming from the socket or the alignment or the prosthesis. And let's see if we can kind of help narrow it down and then have the prosthetist take a look at it and really pinpoint the solution. Okay, but that takes time. That's not something that can just be a quick fix in one session with a prosthetist. All right, this is my little soapbox for the evening, and I see this a lot more in the younger prosthetists. And again, as a physical therapist, I made a lot of these mistakes myself when I was first learning about alignment and about how things work with the prosthesis. Sometimes you'll see a prosthetist go in there with their wrench and they'll twist here and they'll tweak there and they'll align here and change alignment there. And then they have the patient walk up and down the parallel bars a few times. And then there's tweaking and tweaking, my best success with patients is when the physical therapist and prosthetist are right there, right? And the prosthetist will make an adjustment on the alignment and then they'll take a step back and let the physical therapist really work with the patient. Right? Because it's going to take time to get acclimated to that new adjustment, to whatever that alignment was, more than just a few times up and down the parallel bars. So a lot of times when I'm working with a patient, I like to have the prosthetist maybe make one adjustment, a very carefully selected adjustment, and then let me have my treatment session with the patient. Because then it'll give us time to really determine, was that the right adjustment or do we need to go back? I think a lot of times when we just start tweaking and turn, not that it's that random, but when you see that and you don't let the person become acclimated to those adjustments, you're going to have a hard time telling what's working, what's not working, and where to go. So that's my soapbox for the evening, guys. Thankfully, like I said, this patient, she has a phenomenal clinic, phenomenal prosthetist that she goes to. And I know that they're going to listen to the input that she's telling them, and they know to contact me if they have any additional questions. And they'll be able to really just kind of laser point that particular adjustment that she needs. Eric says, I have a friend that is an above the knee amputee who has these problems, but their prosthetist will not listen. And again, guys, it's a lot of science, but then it's also just, kind of the aha moment. Okay. As a physical therapist, it's easier for me to spot the problem when it's coming from the patient's body, right? If there's a muscle weakness, a muscle imbalance, a skeletal misalignment, it's easier. It's a little bit more challenging for me to see it coming from the socket and the prosthesis and the alignment there, right? And it's the opposite for a prosthetist, right? They're going to go straight for the socket and the prosthesis. And usually it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. So in the particular case of this individual, right, she does have some glute weakness that we're working on. She's got some bad habits in the gait mechanics that we're working on, and she's doing great. But because she's been more active and working with me, her limb is shrinking a little bit, right? But she's not able to get down into the prosthesis all the way. So her valve, she's got one of those little suction valves. It's always like when she's putting weight into it, it's always pushing out air. And when I stick my finger in the valve and I realize she's not all the way down in the socket, right? And it's like, okay, well, she hasn't gained weight and her limb has been shrinking. So why isn't she getting all the way down into the socket? Let's trace it back up. Oh, you know what? That trim line is really high up in the groin. So it's preventing her from getting into that socket all the way, right? But it took about a good treatment session. It took a full hour treatment session to finally narrow the problem and figure out where that was coming from. Okay. Let's see. Beth says we need to hold prosthetists accountable and call them out if they're not willing to listen to their clients. This is true. And guys, a lot of times these prosthetists are wonderful, right? But it just takes time. Like I said, it takes time sometimes to suss out the problem, right? So like I said, in the case where I'm working in the prosthetist clinic, it's wonderful, right? Because the prosthetist, the previous session, he came in, he adjusted the friction real quick. It took less than 10 minutes to do. And then he went off and did about his business and let me continue working with the patient. And we spent the rest of the 45 minutes working with her and thinking and to determine, yes, this in fact was the right adjustment to make. Okay. So that's my soapbox for the evening of team approach, physical therapist, prosthetist working together. All right, guys. It's going to be a short and sweet session tonight. Not a lot of questions came in, but we had some, I think, good discussion here this evening. Guys, as a huge favor, I'm just going to ask a huge favor. If you could please think about sharing this show out to your Facebook groups, to your Instagram, to your personal pages, if you see fit. I would very much appreciate it. The amputee program, my Cozy Talk Strong Body program, is right there, the QR code right there. We got all the video exercises and a couple of great books that go with it. Guys, next week I will be, what's next week? Next week is the 10th. So I will be here next week on the 10th. I will be getting ready for my trip to Guatemala with the Range of Motion Project with ROMP. So excited about that. Tom, thank you again for sending me components to take me with me down there. And we will be doing a very special show with the Range of Motion Project founder in Guatemala on the 17th. So you guys are going to want to stick around for that show for sure. All right, guys. I just want to say a special thank you to everybody for letting me be a part of your lives this evening. A happy, happy, happy 4th of July. Happy birthday to our nation. Proud to be an American, proud that of the home that I have built here with my family as a first-generation born American. So thank you to this beautiful country. And I hope you guys enjoy your 4th of July and stay safe. And we will see you all next week